Hello everyone and welcome to Inside Procurement, the SmartCube's video forum examining the concepts and ideas that influence procurement and supply chain executives both today and tomorrow. In this episode, we discuss the impact of mergers and acquisitions, or M&A activity, on the procurement function. If you work for a company of any material size, the odds are high that you will have to deal with M&A activity and its subsequent impact on what you do as a procurement leader. You may be part of the company doing the buying, or you may be the company being bought. But either way, there's a very high chance that you'll have to grapple with the implications. So in order to shed more light on this increasingly prevalent phenomenon, we're going to look at this topic from three angles. First, we'll talk about the overall prevalence of M&A activity as well as what synergies can be expected. Next, we examine the specific role procurement can and should play when it comes to M&A. Finally, we'll talk about how procurement leaders can be better prepared to take advantage of the situation. We'll look at some of the tangible steps that the CPO can take so that he or she can play a meaningful role for their organization during the M&A phase and how they can help their companies maximize the benefits that are achieved. It's an interesting time to be talking about this topic because 2018 was an exceptional year for M&A activity, characterized by mega deals in almost every sector. According to Bureau van Dijk, the aggregate value of announced mergers and acquisitions globally reached its highest level since 2015. Deal value increased by 10% over the previous year, even though deal volume declined 7%. The top target country by value and volume, no surprise, was the US. The factors driving this growth were both time-specific as well as time-honored, including historically low interest rates, the anticipation of future interest rate surges, stronger balance sheets, the desire for sectoral consolidation and capability acquisition, corporate diversification, customer growth, increasing private equity activity, and much more. And all of this despite concerns about potential regulatory changes, political uncertainty, and early concerns about an upcoming economic downturn. But whatever the precipitating rationale, once the deal is done, all executives have to get to work to make sure that the merger proves successful. And that means focusing on driving the maximum practical benefit from bringing the two companies together. Broadly speaking, this translates into three core strategies or synergies: achieving cost savings, enhancing revenue opportunities, and deriving other types of financial synergies. Companies derive cost-saving synergies by sharing information, technology, R&D capabilities, patent rights, and sales and marketing channels, by improving and optimizing supply chains, by optimizing the workforce, both in terms of capabilities as well as right-sizing. Revenue synergies are gained by creating more competitive offerings, leveraging the strengths of both companies, by bundling complementary products produced to better target the market, or by taking advantage of better customer access in terms of geographies and segments. In terms of other types of financial synergies, these can be far more complex, but can include additional tax benefits, the ability to take on leverage more optimally, and more. While all of these benefit types can be very real and very tangible, the most immediate, and hence the one that tends to get the biggest focus with most mergers, are the cost synergies. These synergies are what pays for the merger and drives the value that the street typically wants to see the most quickly. A big chunk of these cost benefits come from right-sizing, merging the entities, streamlining management, eliminating duplicate functions, and otherwise reducing headcount to drive, ideally, deeper productivity and focus for the business. But a good chunk of the cost benefits comes from impacting external spend, and that's why procurement's role is so critical. Procurement, by definition, can have a front row seat at the merger table and can tangibly drive and help hit much of the announced benefits of the merger. Specifically, procurement can drive benefits in two broad forms, one well accepted and known, and the other less considered. Cost reduction is the first thing we tend to think of in terms of procurement's impact, and this makes a lot of sense. Here's the simplified version of why exactly it makes sense. The two merging organizations, in most cases, buy the same categories, certainly when it comes to indirect spend, but also in many direct categories. It follows then that there should be some benefit to be derived by paying the same prices across the board, at least for the same specifications. There should also be an uptick in purchase volumes, especially when buying from the same suppliers, which should yield volume discounts. Add to this departmental optimization, reduced headcount, deeper diligence in the sourcing process, and the elimination of other types of redundancies, and the value delivered by procurement, at least in terms of cost savings, speaks for itself. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say all of this. Many of you have lived through, worked through, and delivered those types of synergies yourselves. I mean, it's the meat and potatoes of the function, or the bread and butter, to overuse the food analogies, of any meaty merger activity. But let's make this more tangible. Achieving cost synergies requires a host of steps, both in the early and later stages of the process, sometimes pre-deal, sometimes pre-closure stages, and often post-day one. These include activities such as assess synergies and consolidation opportunities. What are overlapping categories? Where are the common spend areas expected to be? Which geographies can be consolidated? Which payment terms can be standardized? Review contracts at multiple levels. Pick the best deals, identify better practices and terms, leverage common practices, measure and manage everything. Assess and consolidate the organizational structure, including roles, levels, number of people, quality of people, and more. Integrate processes, policies, and procedures. Standardize wherever possible. Simplify as much as you can. Look for commonalities wherever possible, but leave local and custom needs separate where necessary. Analyze and organize the combined entity's demand management requirements, patterns, and profiles. Use this as an input to determine the policies and procedures. Source and resource where necessary to capture the combined leverage spend and max out the value of the combined categories across the new entity. There's more to cost synergies than that, of course, but those examples provide a good flavor of what can be done to extract real value. Okay, that wraps up part one of our conversation on M&A and procurement. In part two, we'll continue the conversation by looking at an often under-considered aspect of where procurement can deliver real impact, revenue enhancement. We'll dive into this topic and then close out our conversation with a 10-point checklist for the CPO to consider when they're operationalizing what they can do to realize procurement value through the merged entity. All right, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to hear more from us, hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to reach out, email us at info@thesmartcube.com. This was Inside Procurement.